Hello YouTube and fellow Star Wars collectors! On this episode of Toys Are the Way, we will be taking a look at Vizsla, one of my favorite characters from the Clone Wars and a very popular character in general. He's been highly requested in every SWTVC March Madness bracket, and it feels really good to finally have him in figure form in the vintage collection, so definitely very excited to take a closer look at this one. And with that being said, let's take a closer look at the card back and the figure. And taking a look at the card back, we have a nice addition to our Clone Wars carded collection, Vizsla, on this wonderful aqua name pill color, which really speaks to me. And then we have a nice image of the character from the Clone Wars here with the Kenner logo down below. All in all, looking pretty fantastic. The only thing I will say is that, he has the Darksaber there in hand, but unfortunately it's covered up by the bubble. It would have been really cool if they chose a different image that had the Darksaber kind of like high up and you could actually see it on the card, because it's a very impressive weapon and I think it should be displayed on a card. But regardless, I'm pretty happy with what we got here. And then we have a nice figure on this wonderful bubble. So all in all, a wonderful addition to the line. And then on the back, he is VC 299 in the line, and this is the first figure that's added to my collection that has the new design on the back of the cards, and I think it looks wonderful. That aqua color just looks great, and I like seeing, the card and the character, and just everything about this speaks to me more. Very, reminiscent of that TVC 1.0 design. And then we have Vizsla's name here with a little blurb about him. So all in all, pretty cool stuff. Although I will say, he's VC 299, and I know Hera is 300. And I think it kind of would have been cool if Vizsla was kind of 300, just because, it's typically been, villains. So definitely would have been interesting to see him as 300, but I'm also a big fan of Hera, so no complaints there either. And as I mentioned earlier, this is going to be a fantastic addition to our Clone Wars carded collection, which I'm happy to see growing more and more by the day. So all in all, very good stuff. Taking a look at Vizsla out of the packaging, I have got to say that this one is simply stunning and a wonderful addition to our collections and displays. I am personally really looking forward to adding him to my Throne of Mandalore display, and I'm very happy to have this heavy hitter from the Clone Wars finally added to the vintage collection. And I've got to give Hasbro a lot of credit for finally investing in, Mandalorian tooling. Ever since we got that Return of the Jedi Boba Fett, that just really sparked it, and then from there we got the Deathwatch Mandos from the Mandalorian series, the Clone Wars Deathwatch Airborne Troopers and Mandalorians, and just all that tooling has really helped get this kind of character added to the line. So got to give them a lot of thanks and praise for that, because this one is definitely a really top-notch figure in my opinion. He's got all the modern articulation you want to see on a figure, the new style hips, he's got a swivel up here at the thigh which doesn't interfere with his holster, and he's got ball jointed everything, rocker ankles, so he'll be able to pose really, really nicely. And I also have always liked that this figure has, the soft shoulder pads here that really doesn't hinder any of that movement, so you're going to get really nice range of motion there. So really cool stuff. I also like that Vizsla has this darker, very almost like green, bluish like jumpsuit that makes him look a little different than all the other Deathwatch Mandalorians from the Clone Wars, so he just really stands out, and I kind of like that. And then taking a closer look at the deco on his chest armor, that's been done really nicely. It's got that nice metallic color underneath, and that looks fantastic. Also, taking a look at his helmet, really, really good paint applications there. The visor's nice and straight. That emblem on the top of his helmet looks really good, and just overall, fantastic stuff. Some nice detailing there. And then the jetpack as well has some really good paint deco for those little red lights on the back, and just overall a really decent sculpt. It even has the pegs there, so you can put the little flame effects from either, the Dark Troopers or any other Mandalorian figures you have. So that's just really good stuff there too. And I've also been such a big fan of them standardizing the peg holes. So all, vintage collection figures now have these standardized peg holes, which is great because you can put different jetpacks on here, you can do customs, all sorts of stuff like that, which is really nice to see. Also, I was trying to take a look at his rocket there and see if it's like removable, and I think it will remove, but I'm a little cautious with that. You can kind of see there's a split here of how they put these jetpacks together. The back piece here connects kind of to this front piece, and you can almost kind of split it apart, especially when you're like pulling at the rocket really hard. And upon further investigation, it kind of looks like that rocket is kind of secured to another piece that's kind of encased inside. So I didn't really want to mess with it too much because I didn't want to break this figure right away. But I might investigate on a second one that I get as like, an extra, and maybe if it doesn't work, kind of cut it or customize it some way that he does have a removable rocket, which of course would have been cool to see on the standard release. But yeah, regardless, he's looking pretty good, and I really like that they added the details to the dark saber. It looks much better in my opinion. The Mandalorian one is so like just bland kind of, and this just looks like the dark saber that we all know. So I really appreciate that update as well. And yeah, just overall, I'm very happy with this figure. It's something that we're kind of familiar with because he's not too far off from the Deathwatch Airborne Trooper or the Mandalorians, which let's bring in and do a little bit of comparison and see what's going on there. So taking a look at some of these Clone Wars figures, you can see that there are some striking similarities in terms of the tooling and just overall design of these characters. The main thing that Pre-Vizsla has that is exactly the same as both the Airborne Trooper and the Deathwatch Mandalorian is the lower body legs. So his boots, shin armor, his knee pads, and his holsters are pretty much exactly the same, except he has different weathering on there. And of course, his flight suit is a different color. And then moving up to the arms, he pretty much has everything that the Mandalorian has. The differences here are, the Deathwatch Airborne Trooper has this very unique right arm gauntlet, which has like the flame tubes, and just it's overall a different design. So Pre-Vizsla shares everything that the Mandalorian has, and you can see on his right arm actually that he does not have the paint deco, while Pre-Vizsla does have those red little paint deco hits there that symbolize like red buttons and lights and all that stuff. And then of course he has his own unique belt, which makes him different. And then taking a very close look at this, I actually think he has a different upper body, at least for the front half, which I've noticed that they've been doing with some of the Imperial officers. They use the same exact back, but the front is actually different because they're able to kind of like split this character down the middle, if you will. So if you take a closer look, yeah, you can see that seam right there. So they're able to make this ever so slightly different just to, be closer to his design. And yeah, it's definitely different on the top here, that like, I don't know what you want to call that, like his collarbone armor. And then this is very similar to them, but you can also see that his armor sits much lower on his whole like upper body than, the Airborne Trooper and stuff. So that's again, very cool stuff. And I like seeing them doing creative things when it comes to, just better tooling for the vintage collection and getting very accurate figures out there. So really cool stuff. And of course, the last thing we need to talk about is the removable helmet, which of course you can see is scaled quite nicely. They did a really good job here, and I'm always in favor of swappable heads versus these, removable helmets. I just never have been a fan because they're very inconsistent. Like here it was done well. Sabine was awful in my opinion. And yeah, I'm happy with this, but I still probably would like to see swappable heads moving forward just to reduce any kind of inconsistencies in terms of our figures. But taking a look at his portrait, he looks really good. I think they nailed this in terms of like, making a animated character into a live action representation, if you will. And yeah, they did a really good job. He looks very serious, and I'm very happy with this. The only thing I'll say is that, the head is on that ball joint, but it doesn't have pretty good range of motion. He's got a little bit more of a downward angle look that he can do, but that's one thing they kind of don't do a great job is it's like he can't look up too well. So that's unfortunate in my opinion, but all in all, this is pretty good. And of course the helmet goes on and stays on pretty nice and snug. So they did a good job here, but I don't know. I still want to see swappable heads in the future. And just taking one last look at it, they did a really nice job. It's sculpted very, very well. And these little antennas are actually probably done best with the soft plastic. I feel like if they did it with a hard one, maybe those would have broken off, but I don't know. I feel like they can maybe combine a hard swappable head, maybe soft parts, just, to get us perfect helmets moving forward. But yeah, very happy with how this turned out. Welcome to Deathwatch. For generations, his ancestors fought proudly as warriors against the Jedi, and now Pre-Vizsla can do so in the vintage collection. Pre is an absolutely stunning figure when displayed in a fighting stance. The figure is fully capable of achieving a wide variety of action poses, and due to the new style barbell hip articulation and rocker ankles, it requires little to no effort. This premium 375 action figure is able to easily engage with all of the weapons, creating realistic blaster and saber motions as seen in battle. The soft plastic removable helmet has been done very well this round and is sized correctly due to the lack of hair on pre-Vizsla. This combined with impeccable paint applications and detail throughout makes this fearsome leader a strong addition to my Mandalorian collection, an absolute must-have for a Clone Wars display. I hope you've enjoyed this video and taking a look at one of the latest additions to the vintage collection, Pre-Vizsla from the Clone Wars, an absolutely stunning addition to the line that is keeping 375 alive. But let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and don't forget to smash a like on this video and subscribe if you're new to the channel. It really helps and is always greatly appreciated. Thanks everyone, and may the Force be with you.